Hi, I'm Phil Clendeninn, and we're here at NAMM 2020 streaming live. And I'm here to talk a little bit about the Montage. We do a little tech talk on getting your Montage and understanding the MIDI modes and how things work. As you know, you can sequence on the Montage. You have both a song and a pattern mode. And it's very easy to create a sound in here. Now, building a performance is at the core of everything that you do. Performance is like your musical instruments. So you think of them as 16 instruments that you can have at a time in your musical ensemble. I'll give you a little idea. I got a little short thing here I'm going to play you. You have all kinds of things that you can do on a Montage. All right, so let's say I have a song that I recorded into the Montage song recorder. Now, the wonderful thing is when you connect it to your DAW, you must have Montage Connect. Now, if you have a MODX, there's a MODX Connect. And what it is an application that runs on your computer inside your DAW as either a VST plugin or an AU plugin. And what I can do, once I store my song, all right, in the Montage, you go to Utility and you go to Contents, Data Utility, and there in the Data Utility, you will see all of your user data. There's a folder for arpeggios, for your libraries, for your live sets, for your motion sequences, for your patterns, for your performances, and for your songs, as well as your waveforms. It's everything in your user bank. So now, when you go to the song mode, or the song folder, you will see that slipping away, that's the song there, is in that folder. Now, in your computer, now if you look at the Montage Connect application, there's recall, and then you have song import. And sure enough, there is Slipping Away. Now I just take that icon, drag, and drop it into a blank space in Cubase, and it explodes into a complete separate MIDI channel, separate tracks, and all set to go. So this is the kind of interface. You can get your ideas down quickly. Now, what we call this inside of the Montage is a performance recorder. Now, appreciate what that means. That means everything that you perform will be recorded. That means you don't really necessarily, unlike a traditional sequencer, you put a track into a record. In Montage, whatever you do is recorded. So in other words, if you're playing one sound, then it will record that one sound. If you're playing multiple parts, well, then it will record the multiple parts. Okay? So, closer? Okay. So what you can really do now is with your performances, it's a matter of if there's one member in the band, you can record that. If you're playing a two-part performance, you can record both parts. A lot of times, if you call up a sound, maybe you call up the CFX plus FM EP. Now there you're playing 4 parts of an acoustic piano, 1 part is an electric piano. When you morph to that with the Super Knob, you want to be able to record all of that. So that means you're recording 5 streams of MIDI data, all right? 4 for the piano, 1 for the electric piano, and you're also going to be recording the Super Knob movement. So this is different from maybe what you've known previously in terms of recording things. It is quite a shock to some people when they realize, oh my goodness, I'm transmitting on multiple MIDI channels. The thing that makes this unique, instead of just layering sound on sound on sound on sound, and then they all do the same thing when you play, what happens with this is you have a control matrix here that allows you to control each of the sounds that you're controlling individually. You address them with their own set of control parameters. So the controller matrix is the name of the game. So you can move things around and so forth. So the MIDI modes, multiple parts can be played because this transmits on multiple MIDI channels. So up to 8 MIDI channels at a time. So you can control up to 8 things. So in other words, if I'm playing a sound like Seattle Sections, which happens to be 7 string parts, all right, you have your first violins, you have your second violins, you have your violas, no notes below C on the viola, you have your cellos, you have your contrabasses. So that is your string section there. And you can morph to a solo violin, a solo viola, and a solo cello. That's what the Super Knob is doing. So you're actually morphing between these parts. And of course there's a spiccato stroke that you can bring in. What these multiple parts allow you to do is to control the different parts of the orchestra individually. Moving the Super Knob can be individual to each one of these sections, so you can change the volumes as you need. You need to bring up the violins and down the viola section. You can arrange that with one musical gesture. Okay, so MIDI. We're using MIDI. Everything that you move, if you move a physical controller, it makes a MIDI message, okay? That can be recorded and then played back. Now, one of the wonderful things about working with this is that it captures everything that you do. Now, if you record it on board, you don't have to set up, you just have an idea, you created a sound, you want to get it down, you can record. Then you can drag and drop it into your favorite DAW and edit. Rather than burden the Montage or the MODX with all the editing features, which are better done on a large screen in a computer, we left the musical, the sound-making part of your music in the product. So in other words, if I'm controlling multiple sounds, I might be panning one to the left and panning another to the right simultaneously with one gesture, making one sound louder, making another sound softer, again, all with the same gesture. If I don't like the speed at which one of those sounds panned, I don't have to go in and edit CC10, okay? What I'm going to do is go in and edit the sound itself, how it behaves in response to my controllers. So it's all about how you play and how you approach doing controllers. So we have several different modes. The Montage and MODX default in multi-mode. That means you're traveling out on multiple MIDI channels at the same time. We also have a mode called single mode, because as you might imagine, if I'm doing this string performance with all of these string sounds, I'm making a lot more work for myself if I have to edit each of them. If I make a mistake, gee, I've made it 6 or 7 times here, all right? I'd have to go in and fix it. But what you want to be able to do is get a single stream of MIDI data, all right? So what we have are the modes. So under Utility, under Settings, and Advanced, you will see that we have these different modes. They're called the multi-IO modes, all right? And typically it is multi. You have an option for single. When you set it to single, this turns the entire Montage or MoDX into a single channel out and a single channel back in. Now, how are we able to do that if we're controlling multiple parts? Well, think about it. You only have one set of keys. You only have one modulation wheel, one ribbon, one pitch bend wheel, or one sustain pedal. That message is recorded to all of the parts. It goes out on all of the MIDI channels, all right? It's just as you always knew. What is different is when that information comes back to the Montage, each part is told expressly what to do with that MIDI message, okay? So single mode allows you to send out a single stream of MIDI data, makes it very easy to edit, and you get it back. Now, we also have added hybrid mode. Now, I mentioned this in the last segment that I did. If you're not updating your Montage or your MoDX, we're going to send somebody to come get it from you, all right? Because you're missing out on what we're doing. Part of the design plan of these products is to add new features, new sounds, new effect processing. And in response to how people are using it, we try to adjust. So it's part of an interactive thing with products now. We recognize that you as musicians keep your products for 10 years, all right? I'm still running into people who are trading up from original motifs. That was, I don't even want to say, that was 19 years ago, folks. 19 years, all right. But anyway, can I load my SY77 sounds into the Montage? You know, we still get those. We understand. We try to bring those sounds along as well. So we added hybrid mode. Now what hybrid mode is, and we get a lot of people who are confused, they want to set the MIDI channels of each part. Well, there are 16 MIDI channels on a port, 1 through 16. There are 16 parts, 1 through 16. All right? You no longer need to do that. We're not layering sounds on the MIDI channel. All right, that was a trick that you used when you used a sequencer. All right, you made different parts assigned to a single track. What we have here is each part has its own individual track of information, all right, which allows us to do a lot more with it. It may take you a while to get your head around it, but trust me, it's going to work for you. Hybrid mode and single mode have to do with how the instrument is sending out via MIDI and how it's receiving in via MIDI. All right, the zone modes, we have a zone feature. This is an 8-zone master controller. All right, that is how it transmits out via MIDI. So I can play up to 8 MIDI channels at a time. That means I can play 8 synthesizers at a time. All right. So on board here, you think of each part, each one of the multi-timbral parts as a separate synthesizer. I can actually MIDI to something else, all right? Say I had something MIDI to my Montage. I could make it part number 8 here, and I could morph from the string sound I'm playing internally to that external instrument that would show up as part number 8. So I can actually have external sounds as part of what I'm controlling, all right? There's a benefit for sending the audio output of your external synthesizer into the A to D inputs of the Montage or the MoDX. Not only will your external things sound better because it can take advantage of 2 effect processors dedicated for the A to D input, it can also take advantage of the higher grade audio path provided by these instruments. And if you don't think it sounds good, you haven't really heard Montage yet. Compare it to anything. It is the sound that makes this thing happen. So hybrid mode allows you to take a multi-part sound that you're performing and give you a single stream of data going to your DAW, all right? Now, how you would work with that? Let's say I wanted to record something starting with Seattle sections as a string. I don't want to record 7 different MIDI channels of this because I may need to edit it. The advantage of doing MIDI in the first place is that I can change my mind. If I make a mistake, I can correct my mistake. All right? Audio is a commitment, and I know musicians are afraid of commitment. Musicians are always afraid of commitment. All right? I need to keep it as MIDI, so if I change my mind, you know. So there is reasons to record MIDI. Obviously, this has the most advanced audio system ever built into a synthesizer. All right. So if you're old school like me, you might just want to go audio. Say, man, you know, if I make a mistake, I got another, you know, retake, boom, and do it. Or if you're one who wants to put something down and then meticulously edit every note, you can do that. Your workflow is your business, really. You can work either way. So if you work MIDI, every single part can have its own stereo output. Maybe you didn't hear me. Every single part can have its own stereo output. All right? Now, maybe you don't do that. You know, there's no reason maybe to record your synth bass in stereo. It might be a mono sound. You want it fat and right in the middle. So you can really decide what you want to do with the 32 audio outputs. 32 audio outputs. I could take a drum kit on one part and take a separate output on the kick drum, separate output on the snare drum, separate output on the hi-hat, put all 3 hi-hats on one output, make a stereo pair for the tom-tom so I could have them go left to right, stereo output on my percussion, all right? And all of those can stream to your DAW simultaneously, all right? So that's the power of this as an audio device, all right? But when you're working with MIDI, for those who work MIDI first because you need to edit or want to do that, you want to record a single stream from your multiple parts. This way it makes it very easy to edit your notes, all right, to edit your data. And then you render it as audio, all right? Now, those of you who are using Cubase Pro, it is extremely easy to render audio, all right? If you're not using Cubase Pro, what you can do is once you record your MIDI track, you can simply play it back to the synthesizer and output the audio as you need to separate audio tracks. All right? A lot of people say, oh, gee, I have to listen to it again. I recommend you listen to your music over and over and over again. And then you can, you know, make a decision. Then walk away from it for a week or two, come back and see if it really is any good. All right. So the one thing that you want to do with hybrid mode allows you to take a multiple part, that's where you're playing multiple instruments, and edit it as a single track. And then what you do is render audio. The difference between a MIDI track and an audio track is you won't be able to tell the difference. I mean, they're identical in terms of the sound quality. The thing is that you can mute your MIDI track, put it in a folder. It's your ultimate level of undo, if you understand what I mean. If later you change your mind and you go, oh, gee, I really wanted to do something else with that string part, all right? You have your original MIDI data. You just drop the audio in the trash, bring back the MIDI track, make your edits, change whatever you need to. The power of recording MIDI is that you can change your mind. That's the deal. So what you would do is redo it. So you have these modes, multi-mode, where every part goes out on its own MIDI channel, all right? You have single, where everything goes out on one MIDI channel. And you have hybrid, where everything goes out on one MIDI channel, yet and still, those parts that are under keyboard control, remember you can control up to 8 of them. Keyboard control is a nice green icon on the screen. That means that I'm in charge of those right now. Doesn't mean they're all going to sound, but I can morph to them. I can use knobs to get them to bring in. I can bring them in with a foot pedal, bring them in with a mod wheel, bring them in with a ribbon or whatever, all right? Those sounds are under my control. The super knob controls all parts together. I can do all 16 parts assigned to that. It's super because it controls everything. All right. So the power of these MIDI modes takes this to the next level. Okay. And working with a DAW and getting a workflow is something that you need to develop for yourself. All right. Now we're there to help you. You come to YamahaSynth.com. We're there as best we can. We'll help you with whatever DAW you want to use. If you're using Cubase, and if you're using Cubase Pro, you have a lot of new features that will allow you to go to that next level. So that's it from NAMM 2020, a little bit about MIDI modes on the Montage. Thanks very much.